Preparation is everything for a grueling event like the MDS. So we've come to the MDS Expo in London today, where there is a gathering of experts who are going to give us some hints and tips on how you can prepare for success if this is an event on your bucket list.
Don't just do running, because that will more likely lead to some injuries. Try to add some hiking, some power hiking, some cycling, maybe some swimming eventually. Try to be a little bit more holistic in your fitness approach rather than to just focus on the running. I think when I got injured in July 2021, 12 weeks before the marathon is Sables, what allowed me to do well at the race is that I changed my focus from mostly running to a better and global fitness picture. And I think that was a successful idea, and I'd like to give that advice to anyone who wants to take part in that race.
So the biggest mistake I think people make at Marathon des Sables is taking far too many items with them. The minimum pack weight is 6.5 kilos, and I try and get my kit exactly on 6.5 kilos for the race. Half of that's food, and half of it's sort of stuff and the things that you like to take with you to make yourself feel comfortable for the whole week.
For kit choices, I think it's very important to find what suits you. Everyone talks about saving weight, how light the kit must be, but realistically you need to be comfortable with it. So for me, one of the difficult choices was the backpack. A lot of the backpacks for MDS are around 300 grams, 350 grams. I chose one that was 500 grams. The main reason for that is I was very comfortable with it. It's the same one I have today here. It's the same one I will be using next year. Unfortunately, Salomon discontinued them, so I was lucky enough that I had two versions, a red and a black. So if this one wears out before April next year, I'll use the black one, which is new. But I think that's the main thing, comfort rather than just think about the weight all the time. There is one thing that I didn't pack last time, and I had to ask for my mates in the tent to use, and that's a nail clipper. Sounds very silly, and again, it's not a question of weight because that doesn't weigh anything at all. But during the race, your toenails will potentially get battered a little bit through the rocks and through the pounding and the heat. So potentially cutting them halfway through the week is a good idea. So I had to do it after 3 days. So I was glad one of my tent mates had one.
Ideally, if you're going to train your body to be adapted to exercising in the heat, it needs to be within a 2-week window before you go to the climate you're going to go and compete in. So how you acclimatise your body to the heat can either be done in the environment itself. So in an optimal situation, you would go to the country you're going to compete in and get your body adapted to exercising in that environment. If that's not possible, which is the case for the majority of people that have busy lives, working, family, etc., then we use heat chambers to acclimate the body and replicate what you'll be experiencing when you go to the hot environment.
Unfortunately, due to COVID, the heat chamber in Kingston, the one that I knew about and was intending to use, was not available. It was closed to the public, also because it was the beginning of the students' year, so it was too busy over there. Therefore, I used a sauna suit, so that's a 30-pound piece of kit that you can cycle and jog with. I used some hot bath after easy runs, a sauna a little bit, but to be honest, more than 20 minutes in a sauna for me was too much. So it was mostly the sauna suit after a proper acclimation in Spain that worked well for me.
So in a heat chamber, such as the one we have at Porsche Human Performance in Silverstone, we'll run the heat chamber at 40 degrees centigrade. We'll monitor lots of factors like your sweat rate. We'll look at your core body temperature, we'll look at your heart rate, we'll look at your perceived exertion, and we'll monitor those throughout the entire session. Typically we'll do 5 sessions of 1 hour, and we see really good effects on the body's adaptation to heat during that period. So typically what we'll see is heart rate can lower by 20 beats per minute between session 1 and session 5. core body temperature can lower by 1 degree C, and your perceived exertion can also be reduced. So the stress on the body is a lot less for exercising at the same intensity, and the body is in a much better place to go and perform as optimally as it can when you go to your race event in a much more challenging environment.
Every day at the race briefing, the race director, Patrick Bauer, will tell you to run at your pace. You have to find out where you're comfortable so that you're keeping your heart rate down, and also you're making sure that your body temperature doesn't spike. The biggest thing that people do that's wrong is they go far too fast on day one.
In terms of pacing during the Marathon des Sables, I had a plan before that I tried to apply during the race. So the idea for me was to try and do an average of 10 kilometers per hour throughout the week. So that meant about 25 hours throughout the whole week of running. My maximum limit was about 12 kilometers per hour on a rocky flat ground. But faster than that, I knew my heart rate would go a little bit too high. So my consumption of fluid and everything would go out excessively high. So I didn't want to go there. So again, the idea was to stay around 10k per hour, stay controlled. The backpack, of course, adds some weight, so it adds some difficulty. So you've got to be feeling in control all the time in order to not push yourself too much too early in the race. When it comes to cooling strategy, I used the simple idea of pouring water onto areas of the body that are very well vascularized. So I know the neck is, the wrist, the groin as well, but mostly just the head. So we get quite a lot of water during the Marathon des Sables, so it's rarely an issue. In October 21, it was a little bit hotter than usual, so you have to save that water and use it to hydrate yourself, but also to cool down. So I was basically using a 1.5 liter water bottle, putting my thumb through the end of the water bottle and spray gently on my head very regularly, and again on the arms, on the elbows and the wrists. My hydration strategy pre-MDS was very much helped by the sweat test. So based on the sweat test, I got a number that then I was able to use to plan the hydration through the whole race. I knew I had to take approximately 1,500 milligrams of sodium per liter, which was about per hour for me, and that's what I aimed for. Every 5 minutes or so I was taking a sip of water, a sip of precision hydration fluid, and that went on through the whole day. So I would say every 5 minutes or so. Before the MDS, I had done a whole month of specific training regarding fueling, so I knew I wanted to target 90 grams of carbs per hour, sometimes a little bit less, so I was in 75 to 80 on the very long stage, but otherwise I was aiming for 90 grams. So when I mix the powder, I generally double or triple the volume of powder within 500 milliliters of water. So that gave me 90 grams already, mixed with another bottle of water. And along with that, I was eating gels, so 1 or 2 gels per hour, depending. I'm quite lucky, I don't really get blisters at all during the year. So I think the being used to running protects the feet with a bit more hard skin on the areas that are potentially a bit weaker. But for the Marathon des Sables specifically, I did apply the 6 Pro cream provided by the MDS for about 2 weeks. So most days I was doing a gentle foot massage every evening for about 2 weeks before flying out over there. Once I was in the Sahara, I didn't use any cream because that's added weight, so I didn't want to carry that. And again, I was just trying to massage the muscle, relax the skin, relax the tissue, but not using any product at all. That's probably because I know I don't really get blisters. I did get 2 blisters throughout the week, but I treated them, pierced them, cleaned them, and then it was okay for the next day.
So in the desert, clearly because the sun is so strong, the UV strength of that sun is so strong, you really must protect any exposed skin, but also be quite diligent in reapplying any protection. And that could be skincare. If you don't like putting stuff on your skin, make sure you're wearing clothing that blocks the sun. Not all clothing is created equally, so a normal cotton t-shirt, not that you'd be wearing that, is the equivalent of SPF 5. There is clothing that blocks the sun called UPF clothing. So if you don't like skincare, then use clothing that can block the sun. But either way, try and find the maximum protection possible, whether that's in the form of clothing, which is UPF 50 plus, or choose skincare that's 50 plus protection, because that will give you the longest protection and the safest protection.
I tell everybody each year to have fun. Let's face it, we've trained a long time to go and do the race, and when the fun stops, stop. I try and get people to think about happy times when they've been training, and also to enjoy the whole experience. It's not just about the run, it's about looking around at this amazing scenery, the blue sky, and actually being there with lots of friends and enjoying the experience with them too.
So there we have it, some really great advice from people who really know what they're talking about when it comes to getting ready for the MDS. If you want any more information, particularly on preparing your fueling and hydration for the event, then visit precisionfuelandhydration.com or get in touch with us and we would love to help. Good luck with your training.